Okay, question number 43 on your benchmark says the graph of a linear function is shown on the grid below. So they have graphed a line for us, and they want to know which equation is best represented by the graph. So we have A, B, C, D. So if you recognize the format of this is point slope format. And in this format, you can look at your slope. You can easily identify if you know where to look. You can also identify an ordered pair. So you've got an X value and you have a Y value. And notice the operation that they are using with both X and Y is subtraction, but when I write it in the ordered pair, they are going to have a sign change. So if I see Y plus, that tells me my Y is negative. If I see X plus, that tells me my X value in my ordered pair is negative. And I want to look at my line and I want to check out the slope. It is matching up to a nice negative. So think about what would slope do say. Nice negative, which means my slope value has to be negative. So I'm going to look at where the slope number is in those 4 answer choices, and I notice that only 2 of the slopes are negative. So that means answer choice C and D can be ruled out because they have a positive slope, which means my line should be slanting upward in the graph picture. And so now I'm going to look at my sign. So I know that this is a Y value and this is a Y value, and the numbers inside the parentheses with X are X values. So now I'm going to write my point. For the first one, remember, it's going to have a sign change. So this is really a positive 4, and instead of a positive 7, it's actually a negative 7 that is my ordered pair. So I have the point 4, negative 7. So I'm going to go to 4, and then I'm going to go down 7, and I should end up on the line, and I do. And now we're going to look at the second one just to check it out. And remember, if you see a plus sign, you really want to think the opposite. So that should be a negative 2. And then my Y value, it's going to be opposite. It's not a plus 1. It's going to be a negative 1 because Y minus a negative 1 is going to turn into plus 1. So my ordered pair for the second equation that should be on the line is negative 2, negative 1. So I'm going to go negative 2, negative 1. And you can clearly see that that ordered pair does not fall on the graph line. So the answer choice B can be eliminated, which means the correct answer is A. Now we're going to look at question number 47. It says the daily cost of hiring a plumber Y to work X hours on a repair project can be modeled using a linear function. The plumber charges a fixed cost of $80 plus an additional cost of $45 per hour. The plumber works a maximum of 8 hours per day. For 1 day of work, what is the range for this situation? So if I see range, I'm going to recognize that as one of my words for Y values. And specifically with range, we are talking about how far down, how far up. Well, I don't have a graph to use, so I don't even have an equation, but what I do have is I have some numbers that I can use to figure this out. So I'm going to actually make a table of values. So for X, those are going to represent, let's see, it says up here X hours. So hours are my X values. So all the numbers that have to do with hours are going to be my X values, and it tells me that Y is the cost, the daily cost of hiring a plumber. So that is going to be cost values, are my Y values. So now I'm going to figure out, well, what's the lowest number of hours? Because if I can figure out my hours, I can figure out my cost based on the information they gave me. So it says that he works a maximum of 8 hours a day, so that's the highest he's going to work. But what is the lowest number of hours he could work? And it has to be 0 because he's not going to work anything. All right, so if he works 0 hours, what is his cost going to be for that? Well, it says he works a fixed cost of 80, so it's going to be 80 plus 45 per hour. So 45 times the number of hours. Well, if he works 0 hours, he's going to get paid $80 no matter what. That would be his lowest cost. And so now I want to figure out his highest cost if he works 80 hours a day. So we're going to take 80 plus, I get paid $45 per hour, and how many hours am I working? 8. So now I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to say $80 plus 45 times 8, and that would be $440 would be his highest cost. So I know how far down his cost goes and how far up his cost goes. So now I'm going to start looking at my answer choices. And remember, range has to do with Y. So I notice that answer choices A and C have X, and that would match up with domain. So now I want to look at my Y value. So the lowest that I would go is $80, and the highest I would go is $440. So the only one that matches up with that, how far down, how far up, is answer choice B. All right, and so now looking at question 52 from your benchmark. What is the X value of the solution to the system of equations? So remember, a solution to a system of equations, it is going to be where those lines intersect. It's going to be the X answer and the Y answer for that intersection. Okay, so I'm really going to get two answers if I put it together. So I want to, if I can make both of these Y equals, I can use my calculator to kind of figure out where they intersect. So I'm going to rearrange the first equation. I'm actually going to make it 2y minus 4 equals x. I'm just going to take those two sides and swap it. And now if I want to solve this for y and make it y equals mx plus b, I have to add 4 to both sides, because that is going to make this be 0, and I'm left with 2y is equal to x plus 4. And now I want to divide by 2 because I want to make this a 1y. So 2 divided by itself is 1. So that's going to give me 1y, or just y. And so now I'm going to go to my calculator. And I'm going to type in, remember there's a 1 there. It can't be a 0 or else there would not be an x at all. So I've got 1 divided by 2. So that's going to make 1/2 x. And then 4 divided by 2, I can do in my calculator, I could do in my head really, plus 2. So there's my first equation that I'm going to type in just a second. But I have to rearrange the second equation as well. So remember, I want to get y equals, so I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. And that 7x is now going to be 0 here because it moved to the other side. So now I'm left with 5y is equal to negative 66 minus 7x. And now again, I don't want 5y, I want 1y, so I'm going to divide everything by 5. And I'm going to get 1y equals, or just y. And so now I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to type in as a fraction negative 66 divided by 5, which does not change, which tells me that fraction was already simplified. And then I'm going to type in negative 7 divided by 5 minus 7/5 x. And so now I have two y equals equations. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type the first one in. And I want to type these both in at the same time because I want to see, again, where they intersect. So now I'm going to type in my second equation. So I've got negative 66 divided by 5 minus 7/5 times the value of x. And so now I'm going to graph it. I may have to do some zooming out because I want to see where they cross so they can find that ordered pair. And since they cross and intersect in my viewing screen, there's no need for me to zoom out. So I'm going to go to second trace. There we go. And I'm going to look at my options for that. If I'm trying to find where they cross, let's see what word means cross and intersect. So I'm going to pick option 5, and then I'm just going to hit enter. So yes, I want to use that line. And then I want to use the second equation I typed in, and now I see guess, so I mean I got to hit enter again for my answer. And it tells me that they intersect at the ordered pair -8, -2. So I'm looking for that ordered pair in my answer. And I don't see ordered pairs, so they must only want one answer, so I need to figure out which answer they want, and they want the x value. Okay, so which number in the ordered pair would be the x value, and that would be the -8. And I can also go back to my calculator and verify that yes, the answer they want is -8 because that's the x answer. So the only answer that matches up with -8 is H. Be careful, some of you may have picked F, but that is the y value. They weren't asking for the y answer, they were only asking for the x answer this time.